Blizzrd fans, we are here with Kerry Geocaris from the Glory.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, what we're talking about right now is youth sports.
Yep.
Okay? And youth sports are important to not only our youth, but also to some adults. Mm-hmm. And you would be one of those adults.
Yes.
So, briefly, tell us about your sport is soccer. Mm-hmm. Has your sport always been soccer?
Yeah, I've always been a multi-sport athlete. It was always the main one. I remember one of my biggest traumas as a child was having to pick a sport. I was a gymnast for about 10 years, played basketball, tennis, track. I did all of the things, but soccer was always the one that I led.
So did you have to define that that high school timeline?
So I remember I think it was 12. It was like 6th grade. When you start, in middle school, you start getting more competitive. The club sports started back then. They weren't as intense as they are now. No. And I would say it was around like 12. I remember my mom coming to me and say, you're going to have to pick. And I remember being so angry at her. I'm like, what do you mean I have to pick? This doesn't make sense. Why can't I do all of them? So I remember that was actually pretty traumatic to be able to, to make that decision and to give it up was really hard.
So in high school, now women's soccer hasn't been as prominent as it is now.
Yeah, so I grew up playing mostly on the boys' team. I was the only girl on the boys' team. That was always the slogan. And I think it was my sophomore year. It was when women's soccer started as a official JV varsity sport. So the first year in my high school, I was playing on the boys' team.
All right. So then, after high school, college comes. Did you do a scholarship to a school? How did that all play out?
Suffered a devastating injury when I was 17, compound fracture, and came back to continue playing because all the scouting was happening, and that was my goal. I was going to play high level college, and I was going to play professionally. Used to watch Mia Hamm and all the World Cups, and then I was invited to go to Marquette University, and I blew my knee out the first day.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's hard. When the body doesn't do what the mind wants it to do, mm-hmm. That's tough for an athlete.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you look at the overuse and the training and all the things what's interesting is now athletes have access to so much better knowledge and better training as well. So that's why I'm like, God, if only I would have had this and I would have done this, But, I didn't, you don't realize it at the time, but now looking back at it, it all served really good purpose for me. It found, my path in what I do now, which is life and business coaching, and I coach athletes and, help with that, the mindset coaching and seeing how these sports are so rooted in our foundation as who we are as human beings. And then how does it help us in our life?
Absolutely. So you're here because you've taken sports to a different level. Mm-hmm. So now you're a team owner,
yep.
Which we all know how that goes. Yeah.
We'll have to have a separate conversation about that someday.
That's a different episode. Yeah. So you're a team owner. You're still investing in the youth side of sports, mm-hmm. though. So you're helping these ladies, is it co-ed or is it?
So this is a all women's league. Yeah. But it's just like partnering with you guys, it's sports in general, so it's giving the women an opportunity. But what I love about it is it's attracting all sorts of people in the community, to see. And then I love the partnerships that we've been doing just with the various, co-ed men, youth sports, because that's really what it's all about. It's finding success through sport and bringing the community together.
Absolutely. So now you've taken it, so you have this team, mm-hmm. and now you're playing again. Mm-hmm. So you're playing the sport you love, yep. Which is good. You're a team owner, but you also mentioned and I like this story. You mentioned doing the life coaching. Yeah. And you use sports as kind of a thing to draw in the people that you're coaching.
Yeah.
Life coaching.
Yeah, it's interesting because as my ideal client, so to speak, it's interesting. They all they're all cut from the same thread. I work with a lot of executives, so that would fall under, business owners, caregivers, athletes, but those executive types, the ones that are willing to, own the team or say yes. I'll ask, one of the first questions I ask them is, were you an athlete? It's one and the same. And so when I do coach clients in life, I use a lot of sports analogies. It really goes hand in hand. And so with the Glory, one of my missions is to help these girls take, it's years of sports, right? That's what we do from 5 years old till, they've been ingrained to go to practice, to train, to win the medal, be the best, all of those things. And then all of a sudden in our society, it's like you're done. Especially for females, it's so hard because, it's get married, get a job, have a baby, you're done. And what I want to empower is that you don't have to be done. There's ways to do this completely differently, but then also seeing what are your skills on the field, on the court, whatever it is, and then how do you bring those into life? Because a lot of athletes don't get that opportunity because they're training so hard and they're working focused on the sport. What I found fascinating is when I see our players and they're so fierce on the field, like they're scary. Some of these women can be really scary.
Absolutely.
And then you get them and put them in front of a microphone and it's
they're the meekest person you've ever met. Yeah.
Wait, what happened here?
Yeah.
Let's get that back. So it's bringing, because an athlete is, I would say, their truest, authentic self on the field.
So it's interesting that you say that, because as we've been talking to these young people, we can see that they have passion about their sport, but a lot of these kids that we've interviewed have also passion towards a career that's not necessarily sports. And so that drive that they have on the field, they've also had to put towards biology, towards medicine, those foundations that they're building before they go off to college. Yeah. It's pretty impressive.
And they may not connect the dots now, and they probably don't see it, but okay, you're going to go to med school, you're going to have that schedule, that pressure, you have to be able to take care of yourself, and now they know how, right? Or someone's told them how to do it.
Yeah, that's usually the case.
I think in our day and age, it's like, do this, this, and this. They're very regimented. They're used to the schedule. They're used to the routine. They're used to high pressure environments. They're used to teamwork, so those qualities and those skills are so ingrained in them that when I think it's so fun to mentor them on what do you want to do. They may not know yet, but it's that practicing and putting themselves in these situations to take those skills on the field and then go, actually, I could do this in my life as well.
So, and I've asked kids, or these, I'll say youth because they're not kids anymore. Some of them are going off to college, and I've asked them, what would you either tell your younger self, or what have you taken away from sports? And I've been very proud of their answers. They're seeing how important it is. Now, you're an individual, and we're interviewing you because you have taken youth sports to an extreme. I mean, you started in youth sports. You're still involved with youth. I mean, these girls aren't very young. They're not the 12-year-olds anymore. Right. But in speaking to youth in particular, so I'm talking middle school through high school, what kind of advice, give just a couple words of advice around whatever you think they need right now, because they're all in different states, right?
It needs to be fun. Why did we start in the first place? And that's where kind of when we all thought about Glory is centered on, it was my idea, but the group that came together was all founded and rooted in one passion, and it's the joy, the glory, the fun feeling that comes from sports. And when you start to lose that, you have to stop and go, okay, what's happening? What is it? I'm overtraining. Is it the environment that I'm in? Is it what has happened? And I think for a lot of the youth sports is they start playing for somebody else or something else. They're trying to get to something, and in that process, they've completely they've lost the enjoyment of the race. You see so many people trying to get to the finish line, in a marathon.
And I think when you do that, that's when you burn out.
Yep.
And then now the sport doesn't mean what it used to.
Yep.
And you're right. There's a lot that goes into who's mentoring you, who's coaching you, where and why you're doing it.
Yeah, we've inserted punishment into something that's supposed to be amazing. You look at using fitness as to be a punishment, and then you grew up as an adult. What's the first thing that my adult clients, they don't want to run anymore? Right? They gym class. They don't want to do those things anymore. I'm a big believer in fitness being a result of having fun. You can be fierce and you can have fun at the same time. So I think that is one of the biggest things, that when a player comes on the Glory, we always have them find a childhood photo of themselves playing their sport, and to look, and that's who they're playing for. Again, it's a undoing of all the things that we didn't like or didn't enjoy, and getting back to the things that we do. And I think that I would also tell them, you never stop playing. And when people say, I get this all the time and it drives me nuts, and this is, and they'll be like, oh, it must, getting old, that's what happens when you get old. I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way, and I hope that there's people like me that still want to play. But society has said those things, and just think twice when you say that to somebody, like, oh, you're getting old, that sometime you got to just let the body go.
Oh, I use that as fuel.
Yeah.
That's fuel for me.
I have trainers that do that to me.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Kerri, you're old. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, watch me.
Yeah, I have a shirt that says underestimate me. That'll be fun.
Oh, I love it.
So
I love it.
Well, thanks for coming on and talking to us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's great to be here. I love that you guys are doing it. This is awesome.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing you on the field.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thanks.